Welcome to another episode of Offline with LopezRadio. Our guest today is a very, very interesting content creator. I'm very glad to have him on the show. It's GamesWithDeath on Twitch, also known as Jefs. If you want to check him out, it's twitch.tv/GamesWithDeath, and then it's GamesWithDeath on all the social media. That's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. We talk a lot today. We do a kind of a long version of Offline, but there was so much good stuff in it. We talk about some of Death's influences, streaming equipment kind of aspect of approaching content creation, the animation that Death uses and some of the new plans he has for animating Death, being a genuine broadcaster, setting boundaries, appropriate boundaries between you and your community. If you want more conversation between Jeff/Death and myself, head on over to LopezRadio, episode 380. We talk for another 2 hours there. So I'll have a link down below in the description for you to check that out. And if you do that kind of thing, rate, review, subscribe. Otherwise, just enjoy the episode and be sure to go follow Death. He's a wonderful creator. Enjoy. But today we're going to talk a little bit about what Death does and how long he's been doing it, and then we're also going to get into equipment, which we really haven't cracked into yet on this show. Because I know you're a big equipment head, kind of like me. You're big on the audio, you're big on the visuals. So there's plenty to talk about there. Let's start off with this though. How long have you been streaming? Like, when did you pick this thing up?
I picked this up about I'm gonna say, man, I can't believe I'm even gonna say this. I think it's been coming up on 5 years now.
Really?
So this is not the first stream. I guess I'll break the fourth wall here a little bit.
Sure.
But I used to actually have like another stream that was called God, I can say it now, I guess. Shotgun Pipes. I actually really like the name. I thought it was really, really cool. And it was just like, your standard gaming stream and all this kind of stuff. And, it was, I remember when it ended, it had 217 followers, and I had to end it because I was doing like the live cam, like the face cam, all that kind of stuff, straight up just trying to be like, every other regular streamer out there. And unfortunately I got attacked by 4chan trolls, which was terrifying, which was one of those ones where you're like, this is really happening to me, and I don't like this at all. This is quite scary. So it was, at the time I was actually working for the government, and I did not like having my face screen captured and people doing things that were very scary. So I shut the channel down and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of necessitated the need to create a persona.
Yeah.
And I always thought that it would be funny if Death himself was playing a video game,
Yeah.
I thought that would be hilarious. Like just kind of like, I don't know, like if anybody was like, if there was a character that was ever going to play a game, why not me? Why not Death? Why can't I do it? And I found Adobe Character Animator, and I guess the rest is kind of like history. It's like, 4 years I was doing it part-time, still working and all that kind of stuff. And then it came the opportunity where I could go full-time and try and make this a career. And I did. And I mean, I love it. I've had the good fortune of having 2 careers in my life that I consider the best. One was being a platoon commander, where I would lead actual soldiers in battle and stuff like that in the infantry, and that was an incredible. And this is a very close second. So
that's really cool. Yeah, I know from watching. I guess you were just on another podcast, Tardux.
Yes.
Yeah, I know you've got a pretty extensive military background, which we'll definitely jump into later on. And dude, it's incredible. Like, I mean, to kind of derail what we were planning on talking about, like it's incredible, like the amount of, if you're not careful, the security risk that can be out there, when you're putting yourself out there just to play games and try to entertain people. I mean, we both have friends, obviously you, but I mean, like, we both have other friends that deal with those kinds of things all the time. And it's just kind of like, it can be so scary because you just realize, oh, there are just really unhinged people out there.
Yeah, it's the internet is a dangerous place. It is a very, very dangerous place. You can meet some people that are you meet some of the greatest people that you'll ever meet in your entire life, which I've had the good fortune of doing. That's one of the greatest things, and one of the worst things about Twitch is that you just get to meet all these incredible people that you're like, I could be friends. I can name like 100 people I could be like best friends with, right? Like there's hundreds of people. And then there's other people where you're just like, this is probably the most scary person that I've ever met. You know, it's like, there's very low bar to owning a computer and getting on the internet, unfortunately. But it's, I mean, I think that, like, you know, Twitch has really opened my eyes to a lot of, or content creation, streaming in general, has really opened my eyes to a lot of the things that other people face, like the discrimination, the hate raids, not just the racism, but the sexism. Like I'm very, very fortunate, and you and I have a female streamer friend in common, and you know, just the stories that she tells me and stuff, and you know, like the stories that I hear from other female content creators, and you just kind of like sit back and you go, wow, this is real. It's a real place, man. It's a real place, and you got to protect yourself.
Yeah, it's a real place, and it's just, you realize, and we've both been in that situation where you're like talking to somebody, you're going back and forth, and then like there's always like a moment where you realize, oh, this person is not healthy. Like something's not right here. We're trying to just have a normal conversation, and all of a sudden this got weird really fast. And you're like,
I had my first death threat this year. That was pretty funny.
Oh Lord. Yeah, I haven't had one of those yet, but I'm sure it's coming at some point. So, like, in your opinion, like someone starting out or someone who's kind of just getting into this, maybe they really haven't quite made a name for themselves. That's usually people who are looking for, you know, ideas about content creation, stuff like that. Like, what do you think the most important thing would be to be like, how do I protect myself? Like, how do
as far as protection, I think that the first thing you want to do is probably get every single thing into an alias as much as you can. Two-factor authenticate everything. You know, don't involve people that know your name and all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, don't have family members that are like, you know, you're following on like Instagram or something like that. Just don't do that.
Yeah.
Because people can figure that kind of thing out. But I think that I think it's more of a threat to, like, I don't feel like I am at risk anymore. I don't. Like, number one, I don't feel like I'm at risk because I'm a white male in America, but
right.
You know, like, I mean, it's just, you just don't, unfortunately. It's a kind of a really stupid thing.
Yeah.
But I think that once you get to a certain size, people aren't necessarily, they're just going to get drowned out. Like, the biggest thing that these people want is attention, right?
Right.
Like, I think that's the biggest thing. It's you can shore up all the stuff that, you know, will keep your identity or your name and all that stuff that you need. But even if that stuff does get out, the biggest thing is attention.
Yeah.
Unless they're actually physically like going to where you are, ignore them. Like, in game, ignore them, turn off the stuff. I think that the biggest mistake that a lot of streamers make is that they give these guys attention, is that they get a rise out of them.
Yeah.
It's the number one thing that somebody who is bored enough that they're going to pick up, get into it, or they're going to get online and they're going to try and do these things. The number one weapon you have against them is boredom. And
right.
if you give them what they're trying to avoid, which is boredom, they will go away and find something else to do. I'm the worst person. I've been stream sniped. I know I've been stream sniped. I've been stream sniped several times. I'm oblivious to it. Most of the time, I'm just like, I didn't know that. Oh, that guy, like, chat will have to point out, like, that guy was in your game, Death. And it's like, well, I mean, I didn't know. Like, I mean, how am I supposed to know that? Like,
who is this?
I don't look at the names. I don't care. He's like, yeah, but he did the same thing. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, so what? It doesn't change my content. Did I kill him? Did I not kill him? Like, I mean, did we have a fight? And he's like, well, he knows. Who cares? It's a video game.
Yeah.
He's just looking for attention. So if you just talk about something else, they'll go away. There's nothing you can do to change it. So the only thing you can do is just accept that they're there and just move on with your own stuff and continue on what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think if you're starting out, like, and you're well aware of this, you're not just like, I'm just going to do this for fun or whatever. If you actually want to be serious about it, I think you're right. Like, get like an alias going, start some fresh like email accounts. Like, don't put like, oh, I'm so and so 4561, and you're you know, so your birthday's 4561.
Freaking name, like, oh man,
my password's password. You know.
Yeah. Like when you see people running around, they're like, I'm Scott 1994, and you're like, Scott 1994. What are you doing, dude? Like, I mean, you just gave 2 data points information and stuff. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like boredom is like the best way to fight these guys. You know, don't be boring on stream. Entertain the people that are there to be entertained, but let them. Who cares? Let them stream snipe it. So what? It's what they want you to do is they want you to get mad so that they can clip it and show it to their buddies and be like, oh, I got this. It's like, it's the easiest thing to ignore.
Yeah, don't give them the thing that they want. That's what, like, any of my friends are like, I'm dealing with this, and it was just like, just don't let it show while you're on stream. Just tell everybody to, hey, talk to a mod, or hey, you know, tell this person, they can tell me later. You know, just, it's one of those, like, just don't let it affect you on stream, because they just want to see you get thrown off your game, you know?
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's got to be kind of nice for you though. Like you can probably, you know, just Death has just a few different things he can do. And like, so you don't really see concern in Death's eyes because it's Death.
Yeah, I got like things I can like call upon and be like, take care of this guy after stream, no problem. I'll be all right. It'll be fine.
Oh man,
fine. I'm really good at killing the mood in their love lives, so that's good. So they ain't getting laid. Fuck those guys.
Well, that's crazy, man. Like I didn't realize that you'd had a stream before the stream, so to speak.
Yeah. In retrospect, it was one of the best things that ever happened, because I think that it was, when I started, I was kind of like, and this will bleed into another point. I think it's the best thing that ever happened to me as far as streaming content creation goes, because I had to create something that was unique. And as much as I admire a lot of people who just, put their camera up and they're just like, I'm going to be like, standard streamer. Like I kind of feel like there's that standard streamer kind of thing. I really loved, I grew up on like American cartoons. I grew up on stuff like Ren and Stimpy, South Park, God, you name it. Yeah, like anything like Adult Swim or something like that. Things that were like Rick and Morty is a huge inspiration. Things like that were really neat and like risque and like fit the personality and stuff like that. This gave me an opportunity to do that and to bring that to this space, which was, I couldn't do that, and I didn't realize that I had that if I was just going to be like a straight up face cam streamer, Yeah,
there's definitely, right, there's nuance to it. Like immediately, like, so the first time I ever opened up your stream, I was just kind of like, well, this is different. Like, holy shit. Like, it's immediately eye-catching. You're just kind of like, well, I need to know what this is all about. Like, I need to know, how does he, like, I don't need to know how he does it, but like I'm wondering in my head, I'm like, how does he do it? Like, this is really cool. Like, and you see other things that are similar to it, but yours is very, I don't know, it's very unique in the way when you approach the stream, you're like, okay, I can get with this vibe. And then like, you still can see where you've interjected some of your personality, and maybe you're wearing, a Tool shirt, or maybe, you're wearing a certain hat or something like that. And it's kind of like, oh, this guy is like falling into my wheelhouse right now. Like, I feel like we're very close in generation. Right.
Yeah. Like it's, I'm also like, I'm not like, there are the streamers out there that can rely on, the mountain of Adderall that they have next to their desk, and also the fact that they're like 22 and they're at the peak of their mental capacities, and like they're just firing on all cylinders, and they know exactly where the guy, like their gameplay is just insane. Like that is a very, very big part of Twitch. But I'm not saying I'm bad at video games, but I'm like, I'm not, that's not where I really rely on as far as to create the content. And I don't mind those streams. I like, sometimes I sit back and I watch those streams, but I also find those streams a little boring. Like, I will say that, like, I find like, if I tune into like, and I'm not saying taking anything away from those content creators, because they're pulling like really, really big audiences, and that's great and all that kind of stuff because they're playing the game. But I also feel like there's a disconnect, because it's like, yes, you're there to watch their skill, but there's not a lot of them who are like there are not a lot. If you can combine the skill with the personality, you are incredibly going to be successful. But if you can combine some skill with a lot of personality, you can be successful as well at it too. I've seen streamers who are just like, they're straight up just skill. Like they're just really, really cracked at the game. They're the most boring. They're the most boring streams to watch. And then they sit there and they wonder why. And they're like, why am I not getting this? Why is this not happening? And it's like, it's because, yeah, you're really good, but are you entertaining, you know?
Yeah, it's the technical person versus the customer facing person, for lack of a better term, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the person that knows how to calm a situation down versus the person that just knows how to fix the problem and awkwardly walk away from it. So
yeah,
it's
exactly.
And getting into this, like you said, you were kind of starting off with like the regular face cam. Were you just doing single PC setup at the beginning?
Yeah, it was bad not bad at the beginning, but it's taken me a long time to get to where I'm at.
It's never awesome at the beginning. I'll let people know that. It's like, look, when you go back and look at those old VODs and stuff, it's never like, oh man, I was kicking it right out the door. And she's like, no, you had to learn a lot.
Yeah, I think that there's a very big misunderstanding when it comes to streaming. I think that people look at it and they go, wow, you're just playing video games for a living and all this kind of stuff. I guess maybe like back when Twitch started, you could get away with a single PC and a webcam. You could get away with doing that. Like, I mean, there's a lot of really, I think like Tim the Tap Man, I think one of his things that he had his webcam taped to the wall, you know?
Yeah.
And he was just like, here's my personality. He played a lot of COD and that was it, right? Like that's how he built his stream, and he just had a lot of fun doing that. And it was like, wow, that's great and that's awesome. But nowadays it's it's like there's a lot that goes into this, and it took me a long time to get to a 2 PC setup that worked, because this whole thing, like this is very intensive.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I can imagine.
This gets very intensive, and along with all the other stuff that has to be done, it can be very, very rough in a lot of ways. So you kind of have to like take it as it comes, and you've got to be willing to try new things, and you've got to be willing to have a lot of skill sets.
Yeah, and there's levels to it. There's like, you know, there are people who are okay with just turning on the camera and hanging out, and that there's nothing wrong with that. But at some point, when you start upgrading things and you start adding new things to the mix, and you start like saying, okay, I want a better mic, I want better sound or a better video coming out, like you at some point start to become a broadcast engineer of your own stuff, and just realize as you add that stuff, it's going to need more attention, because for some reason you could stream and have the best stream of your life on Monday, and you come back on Wednesday to the same setup, you didn't even touch it, and everything's wrong for no reason.
Yep, that happened. I think that happened like last week. It was like, for some reason, I have no idea why my stream just started to, like, everybody's like, why is it so pixelated? And I was like, I couldn't figure it out. And then the camera was moving, like usually Adobe Character Animator runs at like 24 FPS. It was moving at 5. So it was like a slideshow, and I was like, I couldn't figure out why. I think I figured out eventually that it was Google Chrome did an update. And just and you're just like, oh, okay, sure, I'll just update Google Chrome. That's got nothing to do with my stream. And then you start Google Chrome on your stream PC, and it's like, okay, well, it's just going to suck up all of the RAM, and you're just like, okay, this is like these kind of little tiny things that happen. It is a constant struggle to keep it, not struggle, but it is a constant maintenance that you have to keep it all running, and you have to be, and even beyond that, it's like. Like playing the video game is hard enough, right? Like, I mean, you've got to put the hours in to get good at the game, or you've got to get the hours in to, like, you know, to develop what it is your content is actually going to be. You need to be a sound engineer. You need to be a brand expert. You need to be a graphic designer. You need to be an animator. For my stream, I have to be an animator. I had to learn how to do all of this. I didn't know anything about this. I mean, I went to school for history, for crying out loud.
Yeah, no previous experience with like animation. That was the first thing I wondered. I was like, so is this someone who had done animation before? Like, is he an animator? Like,
no, not at all. I still not struggle, but I still learn things about like there's still new features that are coming out for Adobe Character Animator that I need to implement. Like, I mean, there's automatic arm movements that are going to be coming out there, or that I want to implement. There's proximity animation that you can like, not, I don't want to say that's not the right word. Oh no, it's auto layering, where you can like, if you move, like, where's my mouse? Say like my hand's over here, and it's like I move it over here, it actually will change the graphic to it, so it will look like the hand is flipped as it moves. Like, that's something that I would like to implement. There's like standard replays and stuff like that come through. Like, I mean, everybody's seen this. It's like, okay, like that all has to be programmed. And I don't ask me what I'm doing right now. I'm just demonstrating.
You're having a dream about being naked.
Yeah, there you go. Or like, the head's got to go on fire and stuff, and I think it'll go on fire. Yeah, like this has to be animated in a certain way, and I work with an artist because I can't draw, so I've got to tell him exactly what to do, and like it is a lot. It is a lot, but it is also incredibly rewarding to watch someone have a reaction to what you did. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool to just kind of see that, and that's kind of, I guess, was my draw to Twitch at the first, because I was kind of like, I was doing podcasting. I've done podcasting for a long time, and it was kind of like that. Oh, and I've said this several times on my show, but like, to me, it went back to my old radio days of like, oh, well, the chat is the callers, and I am, on the air, and it just kind of felt like that,
Right. Yeah. That's a good analogy.
So you try your best, starting out, to be like, okay, obviously you're going to maybe slightly emulate the people that you watch. And I think that's with any form of entertainment usually. But I think people, what I try to land with people that are like, I want to try this out, is like, okay, well, you want to try this out. So you don't want to break the bank to try something out. Like, just get the basics and just see if you can, like, to me, the beginning of it all is just getting the rhythm of it. You're not going to be able to play a video game at first and see what's going on in chat. And, you have to work up to this. People think that they can turn on the camera and turn on the stream and, well, maybe I'll get a 1,200 person raid, and, you're not going to know what to do with that. You'll have no idea.
That's not, I think that the biggest thing that people, and I also, like, for all the visual stuff that we do, I'll go back to this for just 1 second. You were talking about radio. I think that streaming is more like radio than anything. I think that 90% of your audience is not looking at your stream, because what they do is they usually have a stream on and then they're playing a video game or they're doing something else.
Working. A lot of people
working. They just have you sit up and they're sitting there like doing something else. And I mean, I used to do that. I used to sit at work and watch Dr. Disrespect back in the day, and watch him while I worked, and probably got nothing done, but still watching Dr. Disrespect. But and yeah, like the way that people interact with your stream is through their, it is like a radio program. So like, a lot of people, I think that there's this misconception that if your chat is not talking, they're not there, and that's not true. People think like, when you're like, it happens, your chat is going to get quiet. It happens to everybody. It's going to happen especially to small streamers. It's going to happen especially to it happens to large streamers. I've been in like very, very large streams. I think I've even been in Summit's stream, and it's just dead, but what are they doing? Everybody's just they're either listening or they're just visually watching the gameplay, but mostly they're just listening. So when somebody actually talks in your chat, that's huge. Like, that's huge. Somebody actually taking the time to talk in your chat is the exception. It's not the rule. The rule is that they will lurk, Yeah. I mean, I've got subs that are like, I think there was a sub the other day that was like something like 20 months or something like that. First time that they talk in the chat. Like,
yeah.
How do you subscribe for like I think that happened to Geef too. but like, how do you subscribe for that long, and then you don't say anything, and then like you just pipe up one day and you're like, but that is an amazing viewer. That is
That's
an
really
amazing
cool.
viewer. That is a committed person to your stream. They just don't talk, but they're there because they like to hear you talk. So it's not like if you're not talking to chat that you don't have anything there. And I think that people don't understand that. It's like you are more a radio voice than you are anything else.
Yeah.
Visually, yeah, you're playing a video game, but you're more a radio voice. So keep talking, talk about whatever, talk about the game, narrate your gameplay, talk to people in the chat if they talk in the chat. And if they you know, if you get to a thing where you know, where it goes dead, just know everybody's there. They're still there, you know.
Well, and that's also kind of steps into what we were talking about with equipment. Like, have some, like, just listen back a lot. I don't know if a lot of people go back and just rewatch just a little bit of your VOD, and just to be like, does this sound okay? Am I sounding good? Like, I do it just about every day, like the day after I stream. I just pull it up, and I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but I'm going to pop through it just to see, oh, how did this sound? How did this look? My camera looked shitty. What's going on there? Like, you know, I sounded, for some reason I was garbled. I don't know what's going on there, but like, listen back and be honest with yourself. Like, is this something that I would sit back and listen to? You know,
and try to be, and I'm like, I still consider myself like to be a developing streamer. Like, I don't consider myself to be like I've arrived or anything like that.
Sure.
Like, I don't feel like I'm done. Like, I think the one critiques that I would have of myself is that I picked up a bad habit, and I picked this up from Moon, for crying out loud, who's actually really, really huge. Is like humming during stream. For some reason, I it's like a verbal tick where I just go dun dun dun, and it's like, okay, I got to stop doing this. Like, that's the thing that I've been trying to. It's hard to do. Oh my God, is it hard to do? Because it's like you're so used to doing it. And also another thing too is negativity. I think that it is very hard to play a video game for 5,000 hours and not get upset about it.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of streamers out there that are going to, and that's just the way it is. Like, you're going to get upset in a lot of ways. You can't play something for 5,000 hours and not be like, okay, like, it's going to get on your nerves.
Yeah.
But if you can overcome that, and even if it does get on your nerves, not to verbalize that kind of thing, you're just way better off for it. You're a way better people. I think that what people like is when they come in and they see somebody having fun.
Yeah, and there's definitely streamers I've watched that I stopped watching because they were just, it was like, what's the bad news today, dude? You know, you're just kind of like, what? Well, you're mad again at the game that you're playing, and it's kind of, I think it drives people away too, because it's also people who are taking the time to be there. It's people who are like being subbed or donating, and they're just kind of like, man, like, this guy is living, for some people, living my dream, you know, and it's just kind of like, all they're doing is bitching about the game, and you're kind of like, it just kind of kills the vibe sometimes. Like, there are communities that love to just be miserable together, but like, I think that a big thing to tell anyone that wants to start this is like, start nurturing the kind of culture you want within your chat really, really early on. Just don't put up with anything, because, you know, if chat sees you putting up with some guy being a jackass, they're going to be like, well, I guess, you know, they kind of put that on you too, because it's like, if you're allowing that to go on in your chat, then
your chat is like your mods are really, really important. They're very important. They will set the tone. You give them free reign to be jerks to you, because it's, you know, but at the end of the day, like, I think I slammed my mods a little bit on Twitter today just because it's fun, because they deserve it. But, you know, but at the same time, it's like, you know, behind the scenes, I'm like, you know, I love those guys. Like, I can't do it without them.
Yeah.
I can't. And we have a lot of mods come in, and some of the mods leave, and that's okay. And people can mod, people can't mod. It's okay. It's the way it goes.
Yeah.
But they're invaluable. They're an invaluable part of it, and they also help set the culture of your stream. There's certain things I won't tolerate. I don't tolerate bullying. I like good-natured ribbing. I like, I have a military background, so that kind of like self-deprecating, but also, like deprecating humor that two people who can take it once you understand it. Or like roasting somebody. It's not meant as like a harassment thing. It's meant as a show of affection.
Right.
So once you get that in my stream, you're like, oh, he's making fun of it.
Right.
Like I think I had a new viewer the other day, and it was like he said something, and I was just like, and I just started like laying into him, and then he said something else, and I started laying into him, and then there was like 4 or 5 things, and then it just became this like roast, this insult roast, and then he followed, and I was like, okay, I have that was a peak moment as a streamer. That's a peak moment where I could like take a new viewer, insult him 5 times, and he'll still hit the follow button, but he understands it, he gets the stream, and I think that's unique. I also think that's unique to my stream because it's a cartoon character who's yelling at you, right? Like you're not going to take it seriously, right? Like, and I think that was one of the funny things about Death. It's and why I thought it was a really, really good character to build upon is because Death is it's kind of like everybody's like, oh, I'm afraid of death and stuff. It's like, if you really understand life, you're not afraid of death. Like if you understand how to live and you understand why you're here and on your, like, then that's up to you to decide whether or not you have those things and stuff like that. Then you're not afraid of death. And so when you come into my stream and it's like, oh man, it's Death himself, and it's like he's this not, I don't want to say impotent, but he's like this powerless thing over me, and it's like, okay, now he's yelling at me, and it's cute, it's funny, because so it makes you kind of forget about actual, maybe real death, or like actual things that you should not care about, because it kind of puts things in perspective. Wow, that got real deep there for a second, but
nothing wrong with
I think that is kind of the grab. I think people who get my channel understand that about me, and I hope they appreciate that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Other people who come in and they don't get it, they're just like, they want to see a carbon copy of a Shroud or a Summit, which is not a bad thing. It's all, I'm always for the high speed gameplay. I like winning.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like oh, it's like, Death, you didn't kill that guy. It's cool. Well, you guys invented medical science. That's why those guys died. Because you guys are combating. You're putting me off. It's all your fault. It's all this kind of thing, right? So it's all a shtick.
Yeah,
in that sense.
I think it's just making the culture. Just whatever you want. I've always told people, like, I just kind of wanted this to, the radio thing aside, but I just kind of wanted it to be like going to a dive bar and hanging out, with a couple of people, and just. This is what we're doing. We're sitting around having some drinks, laughing a little bit, and there just happens to be a game going on. Like something you mentioned in that Tardux podcast was the game just happens to be what brings what's the kind of the adhesive, the common ground between everybody. And then like, but it just at some point, especially if you establish your community, it becomes just the background noise of what's going on, kind of like the game, like the baseball game being on at the bar. It's just kind of like, oh, we're all here to watch the game, but we're going to sit here and bullshit with each other too. Yeah,
it's those community moments that you get. I also think that now this is going to sound very highfalutin. I think that but we're offline with Lopez, so we're going to get deep. I think that when people will look back on streaming and they'll look back at it as like a cultural phenomenon, I think that they're going to think about it in terms of like experiential kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
It perplexes people because it is, you get the old refrain, like, why are you watching somebody playing a video game? Why don't you just play it yourself, right? Like, I don't understand this. This is very strange.
Yeah.
What is this? What is this doing? And it's part of the idea of like, you like baseball, you go watch a baseball game. I think a baseball game is a very good analogy for it. But it is an experiential kind of moment where everything's okay.
Right.
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 Like it is, you are handing over the control of the moment to somebody else, and you are having this experience with them. And that is a very that can be a very deep thing when they're there to see like a victory, or they're there to see something, and the way that the game's represented on the screen is like the same perspective, right? Like you don't have that with baseball. You don't see out of the eyes. You don't even have that with even baseball. You don't even see that. You don't see it out of the eyes of the catcher, or the pitcher, or the hitter.
Sure.
You have no idea what they're saying. You're watching them perform the act. But, you know, when somebody sits, I could sit here and you could be like, oh, I'm playing the game with them and stuff. And that's unique to streaming. I don't think I've thought of anything else that I could. There's nothing else out there that I can think of. Maybe like painting a picture or something. I don't know. Like maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Like maybe something like that where you are creating an art form in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of like, you know, you could talk, there's a lot of philosophy that you can get into as far as like, what it means to experience reality, and what it means to like see it from a certain point of view. It's been a long time since I read Foucault, but whatever. But, listen, grad school's paying off, Mom. Okay, look, I'm talking about it right now.
I'm using it right now.
I'm using it right now. But I think that's really cool. I think that is something where people are going to wonder. This is going to be an interesting period of cultural time in the world when we have this. Not only is it just a personal experience between certain people, but it's also a worldwide personal experience. It's a cross-cultural personal experience. It is, you know, there's things like anonymity that is mixed up into it that is good for things, right? Like that's another thing too, I think, that is interesting, is that there's, when somebody comes into your chat and they're experiencing this thing with them, it's like you're not checking them in a lot of ways, right? Like you're not, like it's not like, say, if you were at that bar, you know.
Right.
Because if you're at a bar, right, unfortunately, a lot of the time, things like sex, things like race, things like status, things like money status, those things play into it.
Yeah.
It doesn't do that on Twitch. It doesn't do that in content creation. It is a universal experience.
Yeah, you could be sitting there talking to a guy who's like on a borrowed laptop, and he's hanging out, and he doesn't have a dime to his name, but this is his entertainment. Or, you know, you could be talking to someone, as we all know, you could be talking to someone that just has money flush, and you just there's no way to, and it's a good thing. Like there's really no way to like judge that, like you can in person, you know.
And yeah, it's like you get to see the streamer, and you get to maybe like identify with the streamer as far as the streamer's like thing, but. Like, I mean, there have been times where I've been like, I don't want to say shocked, but I've been like, I get maybe like you make an assumption as to like, you know, what a person looks like or who they are.
Oh yeah.
And then you find out the reality, and you're like, oh, and it's like, holy shit. I think and if you're a person who doesn't have that, has that experience. Like I've had that experience. I grew up in a very, multicultural liberal country, Canada, where you have that, but imagine you didn't have that before. Then all of a sudden you're finding out, and you're like, I'm friends with this person. That's what gaming does. It's like it brings people together who are just very, very different.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways, and I think that there's a lot of good that comes out of that. So yeah,
I agree, and I think that it's to your point of like meeting someone, like finally meeting someone in person that you've been talking to for a long time. Maybe you've been playing games with them for years or whatever. You know, it is odd because you might know what they look like. You might see a picture, or maybe you see them stream, but it's always different. Like, cause like you've been to TwitchCon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a deal.
They're either way taller. They're either way taller than you think they're going to be, or they're way shorter. It's so odd because you're just used to seeing this, like, you know, shoulders up, you know, and just hearing them talk. And then now there's no microphone. Like, it's just, you're standing in front of them. It's just, in some cases, depending on how much you watch them, it's like surreal to be sitting in front of them and be like,
yeah,
this is odd.
And it's either goes one of two ways. It's either you see somebody and you assumed some kind of thing about them that was like, that elevated them more. You were like, oh my God, I'm going to meet like this person. I think I TwitchCon, I walked by Pokimane, and I was like, it was like, all right, when I was in the military in Canada, I actually was on parade with the Queen one time.
Wow.
And like the Queen's on like all the dollars, all the cents, like she's on the money and all this kind of stuff. And you're like sitting there going like, your mind assumes that she's like 15 feet tall, you know, that
right.
Her handbag is like weighs like 400 pounds and she can like smite you with it. And then you sit back and you're like, she walked by like 3 feet away from me. And you're like, she's just a little old grandma, you know?
She's tiny. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Pokemon. I was walking, she just walked by. She's the tiniest thing you've ever seen. Like she's just, I'm like, Jesus. Like I swear to God, she doesn't even weigh 100 pounds. And then there's other people where you're just like, you would assume that they're gigantic, but they're not. You know?
Yeah.
Like or that you would assume that they're really small, but they're like they're very tall people. And it's just I think that means. To me, that says like your personality comes through on stream more than you think it does. Chat, I will say this: you can't hide. I even the fact that I'm death, right?
Right.
You can't fucking hide from chat. Like you cannot fucking hide from chat.
Well, in
they are going to. They will fucking tear you apart if you're fake with them. They know it. They know it the moment they do it. They know it the moment it happens.
Yeah.
They know it. Yeah.
Well, and they know, I mean, and they might not know, like right at first, but it's all they got to do is spend a little time in there, right? And then it's like, oh, okay, I get it. And then they can pick up when you're being genuine and when you're not. And some people are good at just holding that character, and that's just what they do. But you know, it's there's difference between, you know, like obviously you've got Death, but Death has also got, you know, your personality too. Like there's just that stuff is there and it still feels genuine. So you can be a character and still be genuine. But that's also a point of like, to go back to what we were talking about earlier, like where to be careful, because just like someone who is a corrections officer at a prison talking to other corrections officers, the prisoners, the chatters can start picking up on little details and they'll just start picking. So you just gotta be careful what you put out there too, because everybody will piece it together. They've got their yarns up behind them, and they're they're connecting the dots, and they're figuring a beautiful mind out right now about you.
That is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a death threat this year. That was the first one that I ever got.
Wow.
And it was a very scary experience. And
was it game related or was it stream related?
It was a stream related thing.
Okay.
I don't want to go too many into details because I don't want to give this person any ammunition or anything like that.
No.
But it was one of those things where it was like they did something nice and they got the attention, and then they didn't get what they wanted because they approached it very aggressively. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much somebody donates. If you fucking can't obey the rules and you can't obey my space, you will not fucking interact with me.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. And they didn't like that. And then they started talking about a lot of suicide stuff. And I was just like, okay, I can't. And then it became threats to me. And I was like, I can't do that. Nope. And it was immediate blockage. And like, that's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. I can't let that kind of thing happen. So that was terrifying. That was one of those moments where it was like, okay, I'm really proud of what I've done as far as Twitch goes and like, you know, all that kind of thing. And that was one of those moments where I was like, this shit is real. This shit gets really real. You know?
Yeah. And, you know, there's just, I can't, you know, obviously I'm going to talk to Kerdi at some point, you know, about stuff like this. And it's just kind of like, it's the expectation, you know, that gets laid. Like, it's hard to land that with people. It's like, just because you did something doesn't entitle you to anything having to do with me, having to do with you. And I'm sure it is I'm sure it's weird to them. Like, it's kind of like the whole, like, you know, we all know that guy that fell in love with a stripper kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of like, it's not, doesn't work like that. That's her job, dude. Like, that's her job. Like, what do you want? I don't, and
Kerdi, by the way, hang on. Does this work still? Yeah. Tell me this works. Tell me this works. Oh yeah,
there it is. The Kerdi Sip mug. Look at that.
That's a classic on the channel.
That is a classic.
The stripper doesn't love you. Yeah, that's true, right? Like it's and I think that there's a lot of, and I do also get very I think the first time I ever had somebody, this is not the darker side, but this is something that like people don't talk about a lot. I think the first person that I ever had that threatened suicide in my chat was a really whoa experience. And that was like, I needed to go out there and I needed to be like, I contacted the person. I was like, help you. And like, I mean, there was just this moment of like, just outpouring and trying to help them. And in retrospect, that was probably a mistake. Not because it's a mistake to be compassionate or to have compassion for the person, but it's a mistake for you as a streamer to try and take that on. 100% it's this mistake.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because you are not a certified professional mental health specialist. You are just not. You're not a psychologist. You are not a as much as you would like to advocate for that stuff. And I am fully on. Like, I mean, I'm very open when I talk about, I've had mental health struggles in the past. I've had good mental health moments. I've had bad mental health moments. Depression is a very real thing. It affects a lot of people. But I've also had success in trying to in getting by those things, and taking control of that stuff. And I talk about that. And I have no problem talking about it. I think, and I mean, this is coming from like a guy who's served in 2 militaries and two infantries, right? Like, I don't think it's a weakness to talk about that. I've had a lot of friends who've killed themselves, because they couldn't find the strength to say that they didn't have the strength.
Yeah.
And so that is a real thing. And so, yeah, but you can't, as a streamer, do that. You can offer them some place to go to get distracted from it, but you have to keep the focus on that, because that's your job and that's the only thing that you can affect and do. And you can refer them and you can show compassion. You can show compassion, but you have to stamp. You can't do anything. There's nothing you can do. And you have to stamp it out in a way that is like, I'm going to refer you and push you to the place where you need to be. Because if this is really that serious, then you need to get the help right now. I can't get you the help. You need to call 911 or 811 or whatever the number.
Yeah.
888. I think is it 888? Is there, because people are telling me there's a new 3-digit number that you can call.
I think that I heard about this. I don't know what it is. I probably should look that up. I'll probably flash it. I'll put it in post and just flash it on the screen or something.
Yeah, that'd be great. Like, they have to call that. That's the best spot for them. And it's not that you don't care. It's that you care enough to send them to a professional.
Well, and you're not equipped. It's knowing that you're not equipped, right?
Yeah.
And it's also, it's something I've learned. I mean, I've only been doing this as a hobby. I'm not doing this as a job or anything like that, but something I've learned from being friends with streamers, from being, from knowing and talking to several streamers on my podcast, like, you have to become really good, especially if you want to do this as a job. You have to become really good at setting boundaries, like just setting boundaries and being like, nope, don't do that. Like, I'm not, I'm not going to take on new Steam friends. I'm not going to play games with you. Like, it's, especially when you get to a certain size, like, it's just not. Now there can be special events where that kind of stuff happens, but we're not going to go, you just, whatever your line is, like, we're not going here, and stand by it, because you get into trouble, you can get into trouble.
Yeah, this is one of those things about Twitch that is like the best thing and the worst thing at the same time. I love the fact that I get to interact with the community. I love the fact that I get to do those kind of things. If you're a person who's like me, I'm a real empathetic person. Like, I'm empathetic to a fault. I'm empathetic to the point where it's like, I'm the kind of person who will hear somebody is in pain and I will feel the exact same pain that they feel.
Sure.
Like, it's just my personality type. It doesn't make me weak. It actually, I argue that like that kind of sensitivity to other people's pain is makes you a better person. It makes you able to accomplish more things. But it's one of those things where you have to set a boundary for it. and you have to be able to say no. And it's you're like, I think I said this during the Sigma podcast. You have to realize that even though there's anonymity, there's still a person on the other end of the line. When it comes to it, every single name that pops up in your chat, that's a person. Sometimes they're reprehensible and they come in and they do that. Even reprehensible people, I think there's two different types of trolls, and we can talk about this later too. But even people who are reprehensible, like there's a person that will, that needs compassion, and they need to feel the caring and all that kind of stuff. But you if you tried to help all of that, you would do nothing but that.
Yeah.
Like, and you have to be willing to say, I can't do that. You also have to be willing to understand that there's a lot of people on Twitch that aren't your friends.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The big thing about Twitch is, I think that every streamer out there of a certain size, or even streamers of smaller sizes, have had a person that has come into their life that has acted like a friend, that has been like, yeah, I'm your buddy, I'm your this, I'm your that, I'm here for you, we can do these things, we can do that, and they're only there because they want access to your audience.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say it any other way. And it's a sad and horrible thing to have happen to you. I've had it happen to me twice so far, where I'm just like, I've had to end friendships because I just can't do that, or quote friendships, because I don't think in some cases you're just never really were friends with that person.
Yeah. That was a big difference between the first TwitchCon I went to and the second TwitchCon I went to. The vibe was weird. I went to 18 and 19.
Yeah.
18 was great. Everyone was like excited. Everyone was, it was still like kind of at that boom, so things were growing. And then in 19,
I was at 18 too. That was in San Jose, right?
San Jose. Yeah. That was a great one. But like everything was great. And then like there was just a weird vibe to 19, and like even like when you went and like talked to some of the same people you talked to the year before, everyone was just kind of like guarded up, because it was one of those things where like I think that 17, 18, 19 areas were things really blew up for Twitch, and so you all of a sudden you have a lot of people who just want a lot of your time when you got that check mark sometimes, and it's just kind of like you had a lot of people that were just kind of like, are you here to hang out? Or are you here just to kind of, see if you can curry my favor,
Yep. I always start with trying to be compassionate towards people.
Sure.
Like I give people the benefit of the doubt I give them the benefit of the doubt even when I shouldn't. But I think that there's that kind of thing when that happens. It's people are. You gotta forgive them, because if you think about Twitch, you think about it in the terms of what it really is. It is a 2 million channels that are all competing against each other for viewership, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is like, let's be honest, this is a profit business, right? This is a business. This is, you sit down at the beginning of the day and you do your work, and then hopefully at the end of the day you've acquired more money than you have. If you're doing it as a serious job, you've acquired more money than you have than you've spent, right? Like, yeah. That's the thing. So what happens is that if somebody's popular, then that person becomes,
a kingmaker, like someone who can make or break you. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like let's just say, like, if I started playing with, like, I don't know, some huge ass streamer, yes, there would be a benefit to me financially for that. And unfortunately, a lot of people look at that and go, wow, I can leverage that relationship. That happens. That is, and to a certain extent, it's okay to do that, because that's what you're here for, right? Like, right. There are benefits to people working together, right? People who make a good duo in a game have success, and that's great. There's a synergy, there's a reciprocity, and like everybody shares, and they have that kind of like thing. It's like, yeah, this is really good. This is what we do together.
Yeah,
and they make good content. The banter's good. The personalities are good. Things mesh. Things click. I love collaborating with other people, and I collaborate all the time. I pretty much almost always play with somebody. I rarely solo.
Right.
Because I like the people, and I think that it gives the content something else to be there for, and that's okay. That's okay. Mm-hmm. The problem is that when people use deception, when they're not straight up about the reasons why they're there. I have had people who have reached out to me who have cold called me and said, "Hey, do you want to stream together?" And I've said, "Yeah, no problem. Let's go. Let's do it." And I respect that. Because you're like, I've had somebody say, this is my channel. I'm doing this. I'm getting into hunt. I'd really like, I'm really looking for an opportunity to expose myself to more people and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, okay, yeah, let's go stream. Why? Because that person is being super honest about it. And your boundaries are already set, right? Because they've already set the boundaries. It's like, this is a business relationship.
Yeah.
Now, if you become friends with that person, all the more power to you. And that's happened, where I've had people where I've streamed with them, and then you become friends. And then there are some people where they act like your friend, but they're really not there to be your friend. They're there for what they are. And I've had that happen to me, and it hurts. And I forgive them, because you can't hold that kind of animosity towards that. And it sucks. But I hope that they grow from it. I hope that they learn that what they did was not good. And I hope that they grow, and I don't wish them, they shouldn't like walk around and like be blaming themselves or feeling garbage about it. I don't believe in things like revenge. I think the best revenge is to just live yourself, live better.
Sometimes they don't know any other way. Like, I mean, so like there are things that I've learned just from, watching people play a game or watching people, do a show, where I'm kind of like, oh, I didn't know you couldn't, like, if I didn't hear them say, yeah, you don't do that when you're hanging out with someone, you don't do that when you're, in someone's chat or this or that. Like, you just kind of pick these things up. Yeah. And you realize, oh, okay. And some people just don't know. They just think, oh, this is what I do. I just befriend this person, and hopefully I can get some residual off of that.
Yeah. Or you're a kind of person who's very, very, very giving, and you run into a person who's just a narcissist.
Well, and
narcissists feed off of people who are empathetic. That's what they do.
People are good about exploits. If they can own an exploit for you, they will absolutely do it.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's just natural for those people to behave that way, because that's the way they're programmed. Maybe they have something in the background that prevents them from seeing what they're doing wrong, or maybe they're immature and they don't know, and they're just growing and they don't know that they did it, or they don't know that they've done it, or they're doing it. And like you hope that they do that, but it still is up to you to set boundaries, right?
Boundaries are big.
Like, boundaries are very, very big, and if people violate your boundaries, you don't reward that.
No, you just let it go. You just gotta kind of move on and choose to cut ties or not. I mean, you do it in real life. Sometimes you just grow out of being friends with some people, and it's the same thing. Like, you just realize, okay, this isn't a good person to be around. Whether you can tell when there's not a good vibe. Well, this has gone a little longer than I thought, but
longer. I thought we just started.
It feels like it, right? We've gone an hour so far, so we're gonna cut offline. But we're going offline now. But we're gonna go over to LopezRadio, and
we're going online.
We're going online now. Like, we're about to cross the border to online. Now entering.
We're going across the border. Okay.
Yep. This isn't weird at all. Trust me, I'm brown. It's fine. But guys, if you want to continue the conversation with us, we're going to be over at LopezRadio. I'll have a link for that in the description below the video. And if you want to follow Death, it's Games with Death on all the social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Games with Death on Twitch, as well as YouTube. I mean, all the things, right? So be sure to check him out there. And hopefully we see you guys over on the other side. All right. Have a good one.
Goodbye.